If you follow automobiles, you've most certainly heard of Carroll Shelby. I had the privilege of being one of his personal pilots from 2007 to 2010. He became world famous by beating Ferrari at the 24-hour of Le Mans in 1959. From being a humble chicken farmer to World War II pilot and veteran, and then car racer, winner, and designer. Carroll Shelby redefined what it meant to be a winner. Even as a 10-year-old in the mid-1970s, I had heard of Carroll Shelby. I had seen every once in a while one of his rare Shelby Mustangs driving down the street, and I thought to myself, wow, that was special. Many people may not realize that Carroll Shelby was indeed a pilot. During World War II and afterwards, in the civilian world, he operated Lockheed Lodestars like this one and many other aircraft. People may not know, Carroll Shelby was, at the time of his death, the longest living heart transplant patient in the world. So it came as quite an honor to me while working for a jet charter management company in Los Angeles that I was chosen to be one of Carroll Shelby's personal pilots. Going to automobile events with him was always quite fun. It was like the parting of the Red Sea. People just got out of the way. He was just that famous, and for good reason. The first flight I'm going to share with you is a flight I had from Los Angeles to Pontiac, Michigan. With us on that trip was Carroll and Wolfgang Puck. He is a well-known chef and a very nice man from Austria. One of the things I will never forget is when Wolfgang Puck came up to the cockpit with a box of candies. He was actually serving us. But back to the task at hand. I had checked the weather ahead, and it was not good in Pontiac, Michigan. It had been snowing all day. That normally wouldn't be a problem. But I had two concerns. Number one, this aircraft didn't have thrust reversers like more modern aircraft do. And number two, the longest runway in Pontiac, Michigan was only 6,500 feet long. That normally would not be a problem, but if you understand how anti-skid works, it works the same way on automobiles. On slippery surfaces, you're not going to be able to slow down as quickly. I had made my decision. I asked the co-pilot to monitor the aircraft while we were in cruise. I went to tell Carroll that we were going to divert to Detroit. When I told him, he replied in his grovelly voice, "Carlos, you do what you feel's right." So we did. When we landed in Detroit, it took us a very long time to slow down and stop, far longer than the length of the runway in Pontiac. We had made the right decision. The second flight I'm going to share with you is the most common flight we would do, from Los Angeles to Mount Pleasant, Texas. Carroll had a 1,700-acre ranch nearby. The runway was not grooved, so you had to be careful in heavy rain because you could hydroplane. There was also no air traffic control tower. On this day, the weather was not great. It was 400 overcast with about 5 miles visibility. Since the winds were out of the north, we were going to do an RNAV GPS runway 35 approach. Since we could go as low as 340 feet above the ground, we were safe to do the approach. Carroll thanked us for another great flight, but that wasn't the end of the story. Part of being a good pilot also involves reviewing and studying. So I took a very close look at the approach we had just completed. It turns out we never should have landed at Mount Pleasant at all. Vertical navigation had just been added to these charts, and I missed that. my co-pilot did as well. We had descended to a lower altitude than we were trained or equipped to do. We never should have seen the airport. Why did this happen? Well, I'll tell you. Since the lowest landing minimums are always at the top of the chart, we just looked at the top and didn't look closer. For this third story, I had quite a surprise after takeoff. From Mount Pleasant, the static pins had not been removed from the right side of the aircraft by the co-pilot, so they were flapping in the wind. One of the mistakes a lot of pilots make when doing a pre-flight is they stand so close to the aircraft that they miss the big picture. Has everything been removed? Since the DV window has a limit of 165 knots, I asked the co-pilot to open it and grab the flags. He tried for a while before they slid through his hands into the motor. What's the takeaway from that? Leave all aircraft removable items at the base of the entry door before flight to make sure they're all there. The last story is the most telling. On this particular day, the weather just wasn't good enough to land at Mount Pleasant, so we had to go to a nearby airport instead. The yellow circle on the right is Mount Pleasant, where we could not land, and the green circle on the left is Sulphur Springs, where we were going to land. As we descended below the clouds, we both spotted the airport, or so we thought. While we descended lower and lower, we both observed something rather odd. There was a car driving down the runway with its headlights on. The realization struck us at about the same time. We had not been heading to the airport at all. We had both been looking at a country road. Our instruments indicated that the airport was actually to the right. We looked to the right and there it was. We had flown too far to the left, of course, and descended far too soon in the midst of very tall radio antennas. On a side note, Carroll Shelby was always happy to autograph items, and people were always having him sign toy cars as well. But this is something I could never get myself to have him do for me. It just wasn't part of who I was. One final comment I'd like to make. Learning opportunities are lost when pilots only point their fingers at other pilots' mistakes and never share their own mistakes. If we want this industry to be safer, it's high time that pilots stop only pointing their fingers at what other pilots have done wrong and start sharing what they've done wrong as well.